All right, today in the studio we have the founder of one of the fastest growing smartphone brands in the world. A design enthusiast can be credited for making the smartphone space exciting again. A very, very good friend, but most importantly, the title sponsor of two-time IPL winning team RCB. I have the co-founder and India President of Nothing, Akis here. How does that feel, Akis?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, to be honest, yeah, I have goosebumps. It's been an incredible journey, amazing season. It's like actually this year was the first time I attended, in person a cricket game as well. So now I learned all the rules, all the game, and I really got hooked. So I've been attending quite a few games, and yeah, just came back from the final, and the energy, the atmosphere, like in the stadium at the final, was incredible, and of course, being the main title sponsor, this is quite a special moment for us. Extremely happy about how things have unfolded.
You had not watched a single cricket match in a stadium before this season.
No. I did the opening game with RCB, and I really got hooked. I loved every single of it. That's it. So now I'm both a cricket fan and a RCB fan.
I think we're gonna have you play a game very, very soon with us.
Yeah,
as
we'd
well.
love. I mean, I've been playing tennis for the longest period of time, so I could see some commonalities. But
Yes.
yeah, we'd love to test
The swing
my
is
cricket
very
skill.
similar. The swing is very similar.
Yeah.
But did you, at the end of the season, go to Virat and told him that 17 years there was no trophy? You put nothing on your jersey. Last year you got your first one. You put nothing as a title sponsor. You got twice. So nothing deserves a bit of credit for that.
Yeah, I guess very little. I think, a lot of hard work. I think what they've been building over now the last 19 years has been, incredible. The level of consistency and so on. So, yeah, I think if anything, we were lucky to be there at the right moment. But of course, all the outcomes that we're seeing now is many years of hard work, consistency from the team, and of course with Virat, which I'm highly impressed. His kind of headspace and how he's like kind of locked in, even after so many years being around. It's still like every game feels like day one for him. And it's a bit of a mantra we live also by at Nothing. We take nothing for granted. Every day is day one. So yeah, been very inspired by the team and super excited and loving every game I've watched with them. So yeah, super grateful to be part of that journey.
For all you know, there's a three-peat loading next year. And no team has done it in the history. So that could be great, right?
Yeah, that would be incredible for like going from 18 years without winning the IPL to winning 3 years in a row. But yeah, one step at a time. And I think, huge congrats to the team. I think it's been an incredible season. They've been, I felt, from that first game I watched until this kind of final, everything felt super in control, and I think this year they also kind of increased the depth in terms of their bench. So, it was not only like, a one-man show with Virat. I felt it was like the team was very strong on all the fronts. So yeah, super excited for the team, yeah.
And that's been a great story. But what's been a greater story is, of course, the journey of Nothing, because in the last few years, the smartphone market, especially in India, it's been, not notoriously a volume game where everybody has been going for that price to whatever features or specs kind of a thing. But what Nothing has done incredibly well, it's that it has found that balance where you are, while you're scaling, you've been a disruptor, you're also built a very unique identity for the brand, right? So when you were actually thinking of starting this brand out, what was the idea? How did you come about launching Nothing in the first place in such a in such a space and in such a market which has become this dense?
Yeah, I mean, initially we spent a lot of time thinking about it. I think the starting point at the time, like we felt, actually it was quite a genuine approach to it, right? Like as end users, we felt quite bored about what the industry had to offer. I think now things are changing with AI, of course, but 5-6 years ago, like the industry was quite stagnant. There were kind of minor iterations of the products. Everything looked the same. People didn't know where things were heading. So at the time we were entering our 30s, and yeah, we thought like we have roughly around 10 years experience amongst each of us within the sort of co-founding team. And we thought, yeah, let's try to do something about it. It was a passion point for us. It's where we spent our whole kind of professional careers. And I think the first point was, okay, we need the unique value proposition, right? So we started by trying to nail a very unique design identity. That was like step one. So we kind of build a whole very unique design identity, both from a product and brand standpoint. We launched that year one, which was a proof of concept. If year one failed at the time, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you today. So this was our kind of, entry point, right, in an industry where, and initially when we started, a lot of people were like, you're crazy to even think about starting a hardware company. A lot of people thought we would fail within the first year. So we had to almost, prove the market and industry wrong with that kind of first product, really focusing solely on design differentiation. So it was all about, can we craft again this design identity that people can identify a nothing product from at least like 2 meters away without looking at the logo. So we come up with this kind of semi-transparent design approach. Very hard to pull off, a lot of struggle. Like as much as we're excited on the initial kind of concept and sketches and so on, to actually make this into a mass market product was a big challenge. No one had done it. A lot of innovation had to go into the R&D. But yeah, we did that successfully with Ear One. It was just kind of a pair of earbuds at the time, but the level of buzz and overall traction we managed to create was insane at the time. So we sold, I think, roughly around like 500,000 units. And that was a good start to kind of have that proof point and then being able to raise more money and then start kind of developing the first smartphone. And then smartphone, same approach. We wanted to enter with kind of focusing on, hardware design differentiation, on the software at the time. We're still kind of building the whole company, the team. So we didn't have another choice than kind of sticking to a more kind of stock Android experience. And again, the design really broke through. I still remember, the hype that we created with the Phone 1, we're still trying to replicate that.
And I remember all those pictures that you used for like teasing your devices also at the time. You would have that
it was a long
frog and I don't know, like different animals that you would use and they would create so much of hype back
the
then.
sketches. Long pre-launch. People were almost fed up with us because we kept us like slow dripping every single information and so on. But it was very important because also at the time we didn't, all the money we had went into product, so we didn't have any kind of marketing budget at the time, so we had to kind of create that anticipation. And again, we launched our first smartphone in a industry context where also a lot of like new brands that tried at the time failed. They launched their first product and went bankrupt. So for us, getting through that kind of first smartphone launch, same, I think we had sold that kind of just the first year, close to 500,000 units. Again, it was a huge proof point towards also the whole ecosystem, from a supply chain level all the way down to the partners that, okay, this actually, could be a brand that could become sizable because at the end of the day, our industry is all about scale. If you're not able to build that scale at some point, then you're likely going to go bankrupt. So I think, Phone 1 was a good starting point. And then, gradually, each year had a different kind of strategic approach. Then we launched Phone 2. It was also a tough year. Like it was like two flagship back to back after 1 year to the other. But then we enter our fourth year where we had to prove that we could scale. So that's where we kind of launched Phone 2A. We were a bit stressed going to that launch because I think, again, if Phone 2A didn't deliver in terms of the scale we needed to reach, it would have been very challenging. But it was within the first 24 hours, I think we had sold like 100,000 units, which again, as a new brand, has been unprecedented in this industry. And since then we've been kind of gradually building, start shifting a lot of and building our product resources on software, and now kind of building towards the next big era, which is all going to be about AI.
Nice. While you were doing all of this, while you were starting the brand out, or in the early days when the idea came in, as you said that there were a lot of people who told you that you should not get into hardware business, and I understand there's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of emotions at that point. There's excitement, there's passion, you're looking forward to something, but there's also a feeling of fear of failing, apprehensions about certain things. Were there any roadblocks, challenges, any moment where you had this self-doubt that are we doing the right thing, are we taking the right risk?
I think not so much self-doubt, because I think if you get into this headspace, then that's where things kind of start to fall apart. But definitely a lot of challenges. And, knowing that we're going to face a lot of challenges, we almost went bankrupt quite a few times, actually, in the early days. And it's more about, solving one problem after the other. And yeah, always with sort of, we can do it attitude. Everyone told us, a lot of people early days, that it was impossible to be launching a new kind of hardware company within this industry at the time. And I think we took, one step at the time. We were very clear in terms of our kind of, next 3-5 years plans, what we had to do, from, launching year one, use that as a proof of concept, boom, raise more money, start launching our first phone, then start building our software capabilities. And then, now leading up 5 years down the line, we have built the full stack product capabilities, which is quite hard. And, but now we equally exciting, because we have a seat at a table where I think the cards will be reshuffled now, kind of entering in the new era with AI, and I think it's exciting to have a sit at the table and see how those cards will be reshuffled.
As a successful founder today, how important is it for any founder to have that self-belief, to not have that doubt come in to build a successful business?
Extremely important, and I think you should never set any expectation towards anyone except yourself. At the end of the day, it can be a very lonely journey, and you need to have that drive. You need to keep on telling yourself that things are going to be okay, that you need to kind of, again, take one step at a time, solve one problem after the other, and continuously go forward, because you'll have always, people criticizing, people telling you that you cannot do it and so on, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you and you only. And I think, the sooner you embrace that, the sooner you're comfortable about not setting any expectation to people which are, outside of your control. I think the healthier your headspace is going to be to kind of focus on the right things.
And now it's been like 4 or 5 years for you as a journey for Nothing also. One thing which I like and I appreciate is that from the very beginning, India has been such a major focus point for Nothing. You've been building a lot of products for the Indian consumers. What's been your biggest learnings about Indian consumers? Do you think that they are now more aware as some of the consumers in Western countries? What's been the biggest learning there?
We never thought about like, okay, let's build products for the Indian market.
Okay.
I think we've been kind of building products for ourselves first and foremost as tech enthusiasts.
Nice.
And actually what happens is like the sort of early adopter segment is actually a lot bigger in India versus other markets. People here are extremely tech savvy.
Yeah.
They know their products, they know what a processor is, they know to understand which processors are good, and they go to a level of detail when it comes to product, which to be honest, still impresses me a lot. Even today compared to the, markets in Europe and so on, where people are a lot more, can you take like good selfies and a good camera, which is pretty much it. So, launching a new tech brand within that space, like quite rapidly, we had a lot of gravitas in India, with all this kind of early adopters community kind of embracing us and being excited, because at the time, same, the way we felt, like a big part of the early adopter community, tech enthusiasts, felt the same way, so have a new brand that was coming to the market to kind of challenge the status quo, was something that kind of, rallied a lot of people. And I remember when we kind of launched Nothing, same, we announced that, first Carl left from OnePlus, then, that he was working on a new brand. Then we announced our seed investors with the likes of like Tony Fadell, Casey Neistat, and so on. Again, like people within the sort of early adopters, which are considered to be legends. So people were getting super hyped. And from that point, even without having announced the name or without having announced the what product category we're going to enter, we had like so much engagement out of India. Then I remember we did this kind of crowdfunding and a lot of investors trying to get into that crowdfunding, because here in India, not everyone is able to do so. So they were trying to find kind of loopholes and a way to do that. So yeah, the level of kind of support and excitement we've been getting from India has been incredible. And even our first, so as part of those community investors, every year we elect a community board observer. So that person sits in all our board meetings to ensure we kind of keep in touch with the end user all the time, because I think that's the issues with a lot of brands. As they grow, they sort of lose touch with the end user. So for us, we really wanted to be serious about community building. So we appointed a community board observer that basically funnels all sort of feedback on which we can take action directly from the key decision makers within the company. And actually, that person was from India, and he is now part of our team in London as well.
Nice.
So India has been quite deeply intertwined with our kind of overall journey and, of course, growth journey, because now we've been the fastest growing brand here, and it's really enabled us to kind of really scale the business in quite a healthy way.
Historically, though, what we have seen is when a brand starts out, it starts out with a lot of passion, right? As they grow, and I mean, famously in case of, let's say, OnePlus also, as they grow and they start scaling up, they sort of start losing that essence, right? Because there's a lot of pressure to, meet those volumes, meet those numbers. In your case, now in the last 9 months, you have been the fastest growing smartphone brand in India. How are you maintaining that balance where as you scale up, you also don't lose out on what you started out with?
No, I think a few kind of important things, and I think in this industry we've seen that too many times. People coming in, kind of riding that first kind of product launch excitement, which will come regardless. Again, that's kind of early adopter community will always be on the lookout for any new brands, new products coming in the industry. So I think that kind of high you get it no matter what, almost in some cases. You can kind of have it higher or lower to some extent. For us, it was really high with kind of year one and phone one. But I think what's key is to be consistent with a long-term approach. You cannot just be looking at one product launch and then, okay, let's figure out what comes next. So for us, while we knew that we had to kind of face a lot of challenges when we started nothing, we had a clear vision of where we're going to be in the next 5 years, and what will be all the different stage gates and what is our value proposition, and to ensure that level of consistency. So the reasons of why people will be buying your first product, why they will still be buying your product 5 years down the line. And I think that level of consistency is what has allowed us to have a very kind of unique value proposition and to have built gradually that kind of brand love, which again, I think we are one of the only brands, that create that kind of level of excitement launch after launch, and keep on surprising people as well. I think our design team has done an incredible job. Even internally, all the time they manage to kind of, get that smile on my face when I see a new prototype.
Genuine happiness. Every time you're speaking about design and aesthetics of your phone, I can see the genuine happinness and the glow up on your face. It's real.
Yeah, because it's like when you sit into this kind of product decision meetings and so on, and you get a design team that keeps on keeping things fresh, and continuously push that exploration of the design, because we started with some kind of initial kind of design identity, but year after year it kept on being evolved, kept on being kind of challenged, and we never kind of settled in the way from that perspective, and launch after launch, people now are looking forward to all the products we're launching because we keep on surprising people with what we're coming up, yet keeping that kind of level of consistency when it comes to the software experience, and still kind of design, to have a really kind of standout design, a cool product that looks fresh.
Now, you just said that, for a brand, it's very important that they don't look at product, they line up as product by product. You need to have a roadmap, you need to think ahead, right? So what are the next products that you already planned?
So now it's quite it's a fun time, to be honest. It's a fun time in the way that there are a few things happening now. The price hike on the memory chip is sort of what keeps us awake a bit at the moment, in terms of kind of thinking how the overall industry is going to be impacted, how you kind of rethink the strategy around your product roadmap. I think all the brands now have the same kind of challenge. See how that's going to go, because the prices keep on coming up. Again, the sort of Q3 prices, again, the hike was higher than we anticipated. So that kind of requires some adjustments in terms of the strategy as per your kind of product roadmap. And then you have the whole kind of AI era coming in. I think, ever since, last year and for the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of exploration from a hardware standpoint and so on. I think no one has nailed it. What's going to be this kind of peripheral product to the smartphone that will kind of be the starting point in terms of building that product ecosystem around the smartphone, like gathering a lot of data, kind of enabling this kind of future agentic operating system. So I think that's where, a lot of thought process is going at the moment. But then from a higher level standpoint, we're quite, again, consistent when it comes to the product, like thinking about always design differentiation. How do we stand out from that? And then the software experience. How can we build a software experience which is a lot more considered in terms of how we are interacting with technology, ensuring like technology is here to serve you and not kind of extract value from yourself. It's something we've been very keen ever since we started this company. We had this kind of glyph interface where people were saying, oh, it's this one with lights, but actually the meaning behind it and the intent behind it is actually a lot deeper. We've seen how technology and smartphones particularly have kind of extracted value, have kind of burned out our attention span in a way. So we've kind of building in terms of having this more intentional smartphone usage, recent technology as about being a tool that empowers you and enables you versus distracting you. So, our software experience, whether it comes to AI with Essential Space, everything, all the product philosophy kind of falls into that place.
Okay. July is usually the time you launch your next phone. And I think I heard you somewhere say that this year you might not be getting a flagship, right? So
this year, no flagship. Yeah. We put that to bed. Carl put that to bed already a few months ago.
So what should the Nothing enthusiasts expect in that case?
Yeah, we have quite a few exciting products still. I mean, our launch season isn't over. Let's put it that way. I think some specific products which I'm quite excited about it. Carl as well mentioned that we're going to launch our first AI hardware product.
Yes.
And again, this is a bigger play in terms of software integration as well. It's happening.
So the AI hardware device, Nothing's first AI hardware device, is it coming this year itself?
Yeah, this year.
Oh, nice.
Nice. This year. And quite excited about where this is heading. So definitely more to come this year from Nothing is not over.
Nice. Let me now talk about CMF for a second, because that came out of, the idea of CMF as a sub-brand came out of nothing. How important that has been for you? Because from where I see it, and as you also mentioned earlier that, when you launched the phone 2, it maybe didn't meet the expectations in terms of sales and everything as you had expected. And then to had the phone 2A series, then CMF. And that's where I saw a real change in terms of acceptance, the volumes that really, went up, the kind of sales that you guys saw. How important has been CMF in getting Nothing where it is today?
No, it's been important. Again, this industry is all about scale, so you need to crack that. You cannot be just kind of shipping products that, that you're excited about and so on if they don't sell at scale, because you have a whole kind of value chain from supply chain to, all your sales partners and so on. So to be relevant, to keep on raising kind of, capital and so on, you need that scale. So it has played a fairly big role as part of kind of driving that scale. And also as much kind of, I think, excitement even for our internal teams, because the problem statement that we address with Nothing brand, we're sort of addressing the same with CMF, just in another market segment. You're right. In the market segment where we saw a lot of compromises, a lot of shortcuts when it comes to the user experience, from both hardware design and software experience. We saw a big opportunity, like, okay, we've sold that into this price segment with Nothing, like, why not do it in that price segment? Of course, the constraints and dynamics kind of slightly change, but, you can still deliver something quite unique. And I think we, again, proved it with the CMF success overall ever since we kind of introduced the brand.
And this year you obviously gone big on offline also. You've opened your first store in Bangalore. I saw the reception. It was, the kind of people that turned up, it was crazy to see. I think you also plan to take your offline presence from, 10,000 retail stores to further. What are the plans there? And should we expect more Nothing stores, Nothing owned run stores in India?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to be honest, it's sort of following that kind of growth journey. We started with a pair of earbuds, smartphone, more smartphones, and then gradually kind of widening your addressable market. And this includes in terms of how you manage your channels. Of course, online, it's still our bread and butter, very important, especially with, partners that have been there since day one, like Flipkart and so on. But then after you want to keep on kind of growing your presence and keep on growing your volume. So, for us, it was important to kind of start initiating our offline deployment. So we started that ever since last year. And this year, it felt, with the sort of RCB sponsorship and so on, we felt like in a place where we're confident about opening our first store. To be frank, when we put the plan for the store, the payback period was roughly around 5 years. Because, we did put a lot of kind of money into it. We really wanted to be a brand, not just to sell products, but a brand where people would come in and really understand what Nothing is about. So a lot of work went into that store. But then the overall reception has been bananas, to be honest. From that kind of day one where, 2,000 people showed up at the store, and that without even launching a product was insane. And every month the revenue generated from that store has been growing as well. I would have expected, we're quite excited when we look at the kind of second half of February. The first kind of 14 days look very promising, but then I was expecting, month on month revenue to start decreasing, but actually it's growing still as of May. So even outside of a product launch, so more people coming. I think now it's close to 80,000 people that have come through the door. So we have a dedicated kind of software that tracks the number of people that come into the store. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, within less than 3 months, we had generated 1.3 million revenue, which is incredible. So the payback period should be less than a year now.
So now, I guess there's also been so much conversation about AI. Everybody wants to slap AI onto their devices, right? You have taken a very different approach about it. I think I remember speaking to you a couple of years ago where you said that, we don't want AI to be in your face. You want it to work in a way where it's invisible, it's working in the background, and it's still making a difference in your life, right? Is that still the approach that you're taking?
No, 100%. That's, again, we've kept that kind of consistency when it comes to the user experience and, delivering value to the user. We're not kind of never seeing AI as a way to kind of ship more products. Again, we have a more long-term approach to it and really focusing on, we see AI as a tool, right? At the end of the day, people shouldn't even care about, AI being in the background, right? Is what the real value you can deliver to the user. That's how we're kind of building a whole kind of AI product roadmap, and everything leading to this kind of highly personalized, context-aware experience, and hopefully enabling you to kind of, in a world where we have a digital life which is very cluttered, very overwhelming, how can AI kind of take some of that mental burden away? How it can help kind of organize your digital life in a better way. So we've started introducing Essential Space, which acts almost as a second brain that help kind of organize everything that's going on in your life, and also organize the content and the inputs you capture through your phone to kind of make sense out of it and prompt you with a few kind of reminders, to-dos list, and so on. And gradually building towards this kind of highly personalized experience, So we recently launched Essential Apps. And if you think, as we kind of going, I think now it's without a doubt clear that we kind of shifting to this app-less user experience. In a world where I think there is almost a conflict of interest when it comes to apps, right? Apps want to keep you in the apps. They want to kind of being able to keep on serving you ads and so on, versus solely focusing on delivering value to you. So, we had introduced Essential Apps, where you basically can vibe code an app based on your specific requirements and needs. And I think from an overall operating system, that's where we're kind of going. Think about how we like to think about it is there's not going to be one operating system for 1 billion persons. There's going to be 1 billion operating system for 1 billion person. And I think that's where kind of things are heading, because the way you kind of using your smartphone is very different from how I use it and the needs I have.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we're gradually building towards, and as well as kind of, I think what will be key is the product ecosystem around the smartphone, which will be the main gateway to the kind of this kind of AI agentic operating system, at least for the foreseeable future. But I think our dependency on the smartphone will also lessen gradually. As we have more products, more kind of interfaces to be interacted with our operating system, which are super well integrated together. I think that's going to be quite an exciting part. So we're launching our first AI hardware product later this year, and very excited about it.
India is a growing economy. The aspiration of Indian users are growing. I think nothing is seeing a similar journey where you are again one of the fastest growing brands. The aspirations are getting into AI, hardware category, everything. Indian consumers will have more disposable income in next 5 years, 10 years, right? They're going to spend more on experiences. That's the trend that we are seeing. Keeping all of this in mind, where does Nothing sit in next 5 years in the Indian market?
No, I think our growth journey has been sort of hand in hand with India's growth journey. I think India is this kind of hockey stick, kind of exponential growth. I was looking a few months back, I think the Indian economy became a $1 trillion economy in 2007. Then every 7 years added one extra trillion. So in 2021, last year became 4 trillion. Economy, so not 7 years, within just 3 years this time, and by 2030 I think the forecast is around 7 or 8 trillion. So that exponential growth is here, and I think Nothing is almost a proof of that the sort of the aspiration and overall kind of purchase behavior of the Indian consumer are shifted. India is not a market where people are solely driven by kind of value for money at all time. Of course, it's an engine factor. You shouldn't kind of mess around too much with it. But, they're looking to buy into new experiences, something unique, a unique value proposition. And I think that's, Nothing is a living proof of that.
Yeah.
We have a very unique value proposition, a unique kind of user experience, and the level of support and, the growth journey we've been having in India. And again, when we launch our store, to see those 2,000 people, I think it sort of shows how the consumer mindset is shifting and how, especially the young generation is looking for, something else than those pure brands have been focusing on value for money. They look into products that are more expressive, are more unique from a user experience and so on. And especially now we've seen also the affordability programs and so on that have further help that as well. So hopefully, we're not going to be slowing anytime soon, and keep on going on the growth journey along with India.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan, my man. And hopefully RCB will win the IPL and will be the first team next year, and will be the first team to win it.
Who knows, in next 5
3
years.
times in a row.
Next
RCB
5
as well
years,
is on the growth journey.
3-4 trophies in next 5 years, you never know. All right, Akis, thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation. I think there are very few people who are actually looking to build brands. Most people are just running businesses, as we spoke off camera also. They're just into the volume game. They're just trying to sell more devices. A lot of people are also trying to mislead their consumers, fool them around. So it's always heartwarming to see a brand, a bunch of passionate people come together and build something which is actually meaningful and feel so passionate about it. And I've seen this journey from the very beginning. So it feels really good to be part of this also, to meet you and have these conversations and to understand where the brand is going.
Appreciate it. Means a lot. It means a lot. That's why we've started this brand. It's been a personal journey, first and foremost, with a lot of people kind of supporting us in any kind of form. So appreciate it, man.
So all the best for all your plans, and looking forward to play a cricket match with you. Maybe go fishing someday.
Let's do
also,
it.
I've never done that, so
Let's
maybe
do it. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.